Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Paws Up post-game show, the final Paws Up post-game show of the regular season for FIU, who finished with a 4-8 record in the 2023 football season after suffering another brutal loss to the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers by a score of 41-28. I am Jay Gibson. Kevin Barral could not be here. He had to go and finish his article for SI. Of course, me, Kevin, and Johnny will all huddle in for an episode of the Paws Up podcast, going more in depth about our thoughts of the football season. I'm sitting over at the Biscayne Bay Lounge for this post-game show, but it's very quiet here at the football stadium as the cleaning crews taking care of business here. But it's just another disappointing game for the FIU Panthers as they once again give up a massive lead in the first half of football and have to spend the rest of the game clawing back into this thing, which they just could not do, especially with a surprisingly good Western Kentucky defense day. We had talked in the preview show about Western Kentucky's struggles with on their defense. They have like the worst ranked defense in Conference USA, but at the same time, Kewan Jenkins was forced to move out of the pocket a lot this game. Granted, he wasn't sacked that much. He only had one sack, though it was a very, very bad sack, strip sack, the scoop and score in the first half. But defense still did not look great, or offense, I should say, for FIU did not look great at times. Lots of miscues by them. Chris Mitchell himself talked about it in the press conference that we just got out of with head coach Mike McIntyre and wide receiver Chris Mitchell. They spoke to us about the game, and Mitchell himself said that, yeah, a lot of mental mistakes by this FIU team today. The areas which you thought they would really succeed in, they only did okay. Specifically, the rushing game for FIU, they only netted 52 rushing yards against a relatively suspect rushing defense for Western. Granted, Western's rushing attack didn't do much better, 74 yards on the day. Where did FIU excel today? I would say that their ability to contain Malachi Corley has to be commended, because Corley only managed 52 yards and a touchdown, which is okay, but he usually averages around 100 yards per game. So to keep him at check for just 52 yards, not bad at all. And there were some moments where Kewan Jenkins was in his bag, man. He finishes with a final stat line of 27 for 49, 249 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. His connection with Chris Mitchell today, again, it kind of reminded me of the connections of old a little bit, like what we saw against North Texas and Maine, for example. Mitchell, 14 targets, 8 catches for 116 yards, no touchdowns. Most of the touchdowns in this game for FIU came from Eric Rivers, who racked up 2 today, including the final touchdown of the day. And Rocky Beers also got his first collegiate touchdown, which we talked about in the halftime report. So there were some moments in this game where FIU's offense looked pretty good. And to be fair, FIU's offense looked okay. They scored 21 points. The other score for FIU is a fumble return by it was the strip sack by or not a strip sack, but a forced fumble by Donovan Manuel, who also set the all-time FIU record in that category, and it was picked up by Adrian Cole, who took it back to the house. So 21 points from the FIU offense is not terrible, but obviously it was not enough to really keep up with Western Kentucky, who arguably has the best offense in the conference. And so, yeah, mood's not great right now. I was the only one in the preview show who picked Western Kentucky, by the way. Again, there were some great moments in this game. Obviously, it was really cool seeing those 2 records broken by both Chris Mitchell, who is now the all-time leader in receiving yards in a single season, I believe over 1,100. I don't know the exact number, but 1,100. And Donovan Manuel, like we said, forced fumble, 10 tackles as well. Not bad. Reggie Peterson led the way with 12 today. So I guess the linebackers, they did have a great game. Reggie Peterson, Donovan Manuel, especially when compared to Western Kentucky's tackling. They both had double the leaders for the Hilltoppers in that regard. But Austin Reed, once again, we had argued about whether he's the best passer in Conference USA, and I still think that is the case. Austin Reed was borderline unstoppable in the first half, and he still played good in the second half. Austin Reed finished 26 for 35, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. And it just sucks that the season is over. College football goes by way too quickly, and the offseason is so damn long. But at the end of the day, was this a disappointing year? I'm going to say yes. A 4-8 record is exactly like last year's. So if you were to come out and win today, obviously it would be great for the fans who attended. It would leave a nice taste in your mouth ahead of next season. But ultimately, you want to see improvement, and that's really not what we saw from this FIU squad, who back-to-back years now, 4-8. Granted, there was a moment in FIU history from 2020 to 2021 where they only won a single game in that stretch. But there were some ups, there were some downs. That winning streak that FIU had in the beginning of the season against Maine, North Texas, and UConn, there was a lot of hope and a lot of hype surrounding this FIU team during that stretch. And unfortunately, when it got into conference play, they struggled, only squeaking out a double overtime win against Sam Houston, which was admittedly a very great time. That was probably my favorite moment of the season, was that Sam Houston State win in double overtime. I know Kevin and I were super hyped about that. But I think Kevin would also say that Sam Houston State game was the highest point of the season. But the lowest point, I think it has to be that UTEP game, nationally televised on Vice Night, and they let a struggling Miners team drop 21 points unanswered and pretty much cruise away to a win in that game. And like I believe I mentioned in the halftime report, UTEP, Jacksonville State, and now this game, all at home, by the way. FIU gives up 21 points in the first quarter, I believe. Not just the first half, the first quarter. So I believe signing day is on December 20th. We'll probably have some coverage then, but this is going to be just about it for football coverage for a while. Again, we'll probably have an episode down the road and maybe talk to some FIU players here and there about how the season went, but it's been fun doing these preview shows, the halftime reports, and the post-game shows with you all. I know Kevin's not here with me right now, but I'm sure he would, again, say we had a great time. We had some fond memories, Jonathan Mayer as well. And at the end of the day, basketball coverage, of course, we're going to get on that. And then come spring semester with the baseball coverage, it's going to be good. I can already promise you it's going to be great. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot more to say. A disappointing ending to the season. Kind of what I sort of expected. I did think FIU was going to be a lot closer in this game by at least a couple of scores. But is there some hope for next year? Yes. I am excited to see how Kewan Jenkins will develop now. I think overall he had a great season as a true freshman quarterback. He had some great games. He put up some numbers. He had some mistakes, but again, maybe those can be corrected with time. We'll have to wait and see. But the quarterback battle for next season should be interesting, assuming most of these players I'm talking about stay and decide not to head out the transfer portal, which we're hoping. And of course, Lexington Joseph could be the veteran in a running back group that showed a lot of potential, and it'll be interesting to see how that develops as well. Wide receiver group is pretty much open. Of course, you have seniors like Chris Mitchell and Jackson McDonald heading out. But then again, we've seen the emergence of the Beers brothers, not to mention Bracey and Rivers. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. And it's a shame it's over, man. I love college football, and I love covering this FIU team. I know Kevin and Johnny would both agree to that as well. And now it's come to an end with a 4-8 record, 4-8 record to close out the year. FIU is not getting into a bowl game. There was some sort of near impossible way that FIU could get into a bowl game had they had won today, even with a 5-win season. Assuming a lot of stuff happened, but no, that's not happening now. We had some great memories. I'll never forget our first real collaboration with the football team. Of course, having Coach McIntyre, Grayson James, Chase Gabriel, and Jackson McDonald on the Paws podcast, both leading into and during the football season. That collaboration we had with football in our episode with Michael Biamonte regarding the release of the Vice uniforms trailer, that was really special to us. And again, a big thank you to FIU Athletics and FIU football to that. And again, just allowing us to cover the program as much as we have. And again, we're only going to grow. Our content's only going to get better. And we're going to see how this plays out with this football team next season. There is definitely some hope for the future. And we're all going to be excited when week 0 or week 1 of the college football season comes next year and we get into our non-conference slate of games. And the conference itself, of course, is going to change. We're going to add Kennesaw State to the mix next year, and a lot of interesting opponents will take on next year, and it'll be interesting to see how the coaching staff may change, how the starting lineup may change, and we'll be there every step of the way. So I'll wrap it up there. Again, we could talk about this a bit more, but we'll save that for an episode of the podcast directed towards our thoughts, myself, Kevin, and Johnny's regarding FIU football, how this season went. So your final score, Western Kentucky 41, FIU 28. FIU finishes with a 4-8 record on the season, the exact same record as they had last year. For the last time regarding football on the Paws Up post-game show. Before I forget, I had mentioned our next guest on the Paws Up podcast may be episode 39 coming up. We're only one away from 40 after that, man. That is crazy. But it is going to be the return of Ryan Guida, the Rhino from FIU baseball. He's going to hop on the show with us this upcoming Saturday. And the reason the day is so interesting is because it's going to be similar to the Jackson McDonald episode, where we are going to be doing this episode of the podcast in person at the FIU baseball field. So that should be super fun. It should be fun to catch up with Ryan, who, of course, we had on the show, I believe, on episode 20.5, the one right after we spoke with Rajah Bell. So it'll be fun to catch up with him, who is of course, good friend of the show, fan of the show, and it's going to be fun to talk to him. So that's going to be this Saturday. It's probably going to go up that night, 8 p.m., but it should be a good one, no doubt about it. So that's your sneak preview. Ryan Guida upcoming. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and thank you so much for supporting all of our content that we've done for the football season with our special editions of the show with guests of the FIU football team, as well as these Paws Up previews, Paws Up halftime reports, and Paws Up post-game shows. We've seen the love. We really appreciate it, and we'll be back next season. So for now, keep up with our basketball coverage and baseball coverage down the road, and until next time, Paws Up.